Good morning, Stefan. Lambert Lorette here. It's been a while. I ran across your email in where you were asking your group their questions about Subud and how things are going and stuff. And I hope you're well and that things are going well with you and your wife and so forth and your kids. I'm over here in Central California, getting ready to travel, but at the moment I'm here in Morgan Hill, just a little bit south of San Jose. And I just wanted to note that I noticed in your first question you mentioned fellow travelers, and I thought, wow, what is that? So, a person who is not a member of a particular group or party, but who sympathizes with the group's aims and policies. So, I don't know. When you say fellow travelers, was that a Freudian kind of slip or something, that you're not really members of the group, but you kind of sympathize with their aims and policies? I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. Okay, so let me see if I can get back here now to the questions. I think I have it up here. Oh yeah, here it is. Do you ever wonder where the young generation are, where the diversity of ages, where's the diversity of ages and ethnicities? Is it God's will that, in many areas our long-standing groups are aging and fading away? Well, I would have to say it's probably God's will that they're aging. And of course, sometimes when you age, so that part is certainly God's will. And fading away, well, no, I don't think so. Is there something we individuals and groups are doing which makes it hard for new members to connect with us? Well, I'm not sure whether you're kind of being a moderator there, because I think you must have lots of ideas about that, but I'll just be the straight man, and I'll answer that question as it's presented. Yeah, there is something that you're doing which, as you say, makes it hard for people to connect with us, and that is that you are not individually, which I think you all act pretty normally and stuff in society, one hopes, and but as a group, you act in an odd way, and the reason for that you act oddly, you may say, well, we don't act oddly, we have a regular group, there's nothing odd about our group, but, well, let's take a closer look, because culturally, and in terms of customs and things like that, there is an oddity there that's pretty strong. And what that oddity is, I have to kind of go back to the beginning when Subi said you should arrange your groups in accordance with your normal way of doing things, in terms of the customs of your country and how you do stuff there. Well, okay, so in the West, how we do things, not in the East, not in Indonesia, but in the West, how we do things is we get together on an equal basis. We're all equal. We believe in equality. Everybody's equal to everybody else. We certainly aspire to that standard. And some of us are able to actually feel that way. Feel everybody is equal. God created us all. Each one has things and so forth and so on, qualities and gifts, and is also struggling in this world, most likely being tested, as Shivi says, the most difficult place of all. So anyway, we do things as equals, and how we resolve the issue of how to decide about something is we vote. We always vote on everything. Who's going to be this? Who's going to be that? Should we do this? Should we do that? That's how organizations generally run in the human social realm. And in businesses and so forth, they have different ways of doing things. There's a boss, and he tells everybody what to do, and so forth and so on. So then we would have to vote on everything that we did. But right away there was a problem. I'm way back to 57 now. There was a problem because people, are pretty flustered and kind of excited by this whole thing. They figure, how can we vote on things? And we're like, there's so many different kinds of people and stuff, and Muslims and Jews and Christians and, all kinds of people, and people who don't even, think there is a God, and so forth and so on. And so, those who were thinking about things probably thought, well, that would never work. We've got to find some way to kind of bring the group together, because although inwardly we feel like we're one, we feel close and everything, but outwardly we see things differently and have different cultures and so forth and so on. And if we vote on things, it'll just be it won't work, because the Christians and the Muslims have different values and things, and see people with different amounts of admiration and respect, and they'll get into big fights. So we can't just vote. So it was at that point that you kind of threw the baby out with the wash, because you can vote, but the way that you vote is going to be different than the way that people vote in a regular ordinary worldly group. It's going to look the same, but it's going to be different. And how it's going to be different is that when you vote, you're going to wait until you're moved to vote, and so that way the guidance of God will come in there. Wouldn't that be something? The guidance of God. So you don't need to do any kind of special thing or ask any special questions. Just when you vote on whether John should be the president of the group or the chairman or whatever, that you would say, okay, all of those in favor say aye, and under the old ways, or the outer ways of doing things, those people thought John was a cool guy, was their friend, they'd like to have him be chairman, they'd all raise their hand. Yeah, I vote for John. That's a personal response. But as an open person who has guidance and can receive, can get things, you would just wait until and see if you were moved to vote for John. And just as an example, let's say, no, you didn't vote for John. No, and there might be some residual kind of feelings there you could kind of catch on the way to that no, which would be like he's too busy or something. In other words, you're looking at, so that's a very practical. You can see the inner thing is practical. It's not looking at how John is somebody's friend or this or that, or just he's too busy. And then you would go on through the list until you reach, for example, Martha. How would it be for Martha to be chair? You don't ask that question. How would it be? You just say, I'm so used to the testing. You would say, so how many would you like to? They could make a statement, a short thing, but it's all about following the guidance in the group at the time when you're voting. So you say, well, all those who think Martha would, feel like Martha would be a good chairman, raise your hands. And so you wait, sure enough, raise your hand. And so then, if people are actually following guidance, there's accordance there. So everybody would raise their hand when it came to Martha. We'd all realize, oh my God, it's Martha. Martha's kind of a calm, quiet person, but because she's a good leader, And sometimes when you're voting about things, you're not that aware of different qualities, but there it is. And so she would become the chairman, and lo and behold, the group would have done two things. They would have followed the guidance of God. So God would be in there. They would wait until they're moved to vote yes or no. And also it would be very normal, voted. So people would not be put off by this, that we were doing something strange. There was a group, who knows exactly who they were, and so forth, who will decide through a thing called testing, which is, not normal, and is something that really actually takes quite a bit of time to understand, accept, and a lot of people probably wouldn't accept it. They could try to say, well, yeah, anyway, I don't want to get off into that. So yeah, that was the thing, and then along those lines, the second part of that thing, are we doing something which makes people, for new people, to connect with us, not to mention old people, people who've been around the group for a long time. And that is that in the West, we like to do things in if we're going to do something, we want it to be successful. We look for the person who can do the job. We have a lot of things to do, and spreading Subud to the world, or getting Subud, a place for Subud in the world. And so we don't want to mess around. So it's a kind of a meritocratic, process. We want the right person. So we vote for somebody who gets them into office, and then after they've been off for a while, maybe 3 months. 3 months is good. And I just want to say, you want to check on everybody. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. So we check on people to see if they're doing well. We hold them up to some standard, and we see, okay, how are you doing? We have a kind of a check. And the reason we do that is because we don't want to if we made a mistake, or got somebody in that's not doing anything well, or is goofing off, or maybe took off or something. We don't want that mistake to go too far. So we give them a few months, 3 months, say. And then we check them. So that's a kind of, because we want success. So then, in the matter of, for example, of people who are voted in to help new members, of course, a very important thing in Subud, maybe one of the most important things, you have to have a good host, a good greeting committee, some gracious people who love other people, and have and want to do the job and take the time to love it, that kind of person. So you have to you have to vote those people in. Anybody could do it. You don't know who might be good or bad. Could be somebody just came in. Could be somebody that came in the early years. It could be any number of people. It's not a spiritual, big spiritual thing. It's a matter of the kind of love and care and understanding, and various things that they bring to the table, and the willingness to be a good Marine. I mean, go in there, because new people come in, they have funny questions, and they wake up in the middle of the night. So you have to have quite a bit of patience and stuff. So, but God knows who would be good. So when you're voting, you wouldn't need to be concerned about it. You could get those people to do it, and then every 3 months you could check. Because you don't want those people making mistakes with new members. That's death. You get a really nice, good group, and a bunch of people representing are kind of goofing up and aren't very nice, why, you can spoil the whole pudding, you know. So that's really crucial. And then you know, I think common sense would tell you that that job would rotate to some degree. You know, at different times, different people would feel, you know, the need, the urge, the call to help others in the group. And some others would feel like, well, gee, they really, right now they don't have time. They're going to Europe next week, or they're headed for their job is like taking all their time, and they just really couldn't do it very well. So, you know, we kind of go along, call that group, take it out, and new people come in, and, you know, it's pretty likely that you'd find a few people that would come up again and again. And an easy way to see if they're doing a good job is to bring the probationers in, the new members in, and ask them, so how was your experience with the person that was looking after you? And you know, they're going to tell you, you know, in a brief statement, a minute or something, and they're going to tell you right off the bat, you're going to get the feeling of it pretty quick about whether they were getting help and they loved it, and the person was great, and they learned a lot of things, and they answered their questions and so forth. Or whether they were kind of put off, and, you know, the guy didn't answer the phone, then he was kind of unpleasant with me. You know, we have to be really careful about that, because a lot of people in any group are not really, there's some that are, but there's probably more that aren't. They aren't really capable of really forming a good, loving, supportive relationship with somebody else. They don't really care that much at certain points in their life about other people. Or they may have any number of things going on. You know, they can put people off pretty good. So it's a kind of a, you know, you have to have a certain level of what we call, you know, emotional intelligence and so forth and so on. And, you know, you have to be willing to be willing to manifest what's coming to you with that person, rather than what you think. You know, it's pretty obvious stuff. So that put off a lot of people. That whole thing, because some of those people who were supposedly, you know, I mean, they were just there for a few months, but then they got stuck there, and then they didn't behave well. They abused the job. They got into a power thing with it. They weren't nice to. I don't want to be negative about it, but, you know, there were real problems, and so we were derelict in our duty. We never, you know, applied our normal customs and our normal standards to how to get success and be on the right side of things. So that put a lot of people off. And so, yeah, that's no good. You know, I mean, God. And then, you know, let me just say that Subi told us that we need to run our own affairs. I mean, cultures are different. You know, as an American, I can tell you right off the bat when, you know, let's say an English person like yourself, I mean, if you start saying certain kind of things, it's like, this doesn't really work. You think I mean, as an English person, it works great, but as an American, in our culture, it doesn't work. So there's, you know, cultural subtleties are not easily perceptive. Cause a lot of error. And we can't have that in Subu because you have all different kinds of people. So the only people, you know, who can do that would have to be pretty good in terms of being, you know, diplomatic and tactful and things like that. So that would have to be monitored all the way long. Then you could have the successful people, and people would come and go, and it wouldn't be looked upon as some kind of prestigious job or some sort of higher position. which is really important, because if you start having people who are spiritual, then who are the other people? Well, they're the dumb clots, members. They don't know nothing. So that kind of thing perpetuates itself. Pretty soon the members say, well, I don't know, I'm just a member. You better ask the helpers about that. And it develops this incredible mess. So that's the answer to that question. So that has to be done. You have to get this. I mean, these are simple things. Just start there and do it right this time. Sorry if you make a mistake. Don't make it twice. And in our case, don't make it a million times and think it's okay. I mean, what kind of? I mean, he said that initially man was